Sean Dadashi and David Coates. Thank you so much for being here for this session.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned this to you both offline, but this is a conversation with a group of people who are interested in trauma sensitive approaches to meditation and mindfulness, who are professionals who often are working in different areas. These could be meditation teachers, yoga teachers. It's also coaches and therapists working one to one. So, it's people interested in trauma, mental health. And I thought it would be interesting, as we'll talk about with both where you've been spending time, is to have this conversation about artificial intelligence, how that relates to mental health, this particular contemporary moment, and then even tie in some internal family systems, which is what we're up to in this course. So I'm thrilled to talk to you both. I will have given a little bit of an intro about you, but I'm wondering if either of you could just kick us off with a couple data points of where you're coming from and maybe even share your story of how you two connected. So, David, can you mind starting?
Sure. Uh, yeah, I was interested in how clients can get regular support in self-regulating. So I'm an IFS therapist, I've been doing it for a long time. And it's a different way of orienting around experience. And so I wanted to ground clients in the model. I wanted to help them be able to self-regulate and get support. And I had worked with Chris, Sean's co-founder, before, and I started using Rosebud, and I really, really loved it. And I started having clients use it as a way to sync up with themselves between sessions. Because once a week is great. Most people do that for therapy and coaching, and then the world pulls them back into its vortex, and old patterns emerge and triggers emerge. And I wanted to get people more rooted more quickly in the model. So that's how I got connected with Rosebud, which I still use myself and I really love.
Sean, that's awesome. Sean, can you talk about Rosebud because people might not know what it is?
Sure. Rosebud is an interactive journal powered by AI, uh, and its primary purpose is to help you dig deeper into your experience. So it actually learns about you over time and provides you with personalized feedback, but also importantly, follow-up questions that help you dig deeper into what you're feeling right now. And it structures journaling as almost a conversation. So it gets rid of the blank page problem that a lot of people have when they're, sitting down the journal, like, what do I write about? And how do I not become a victim to my thoughts? Right? I journaled a lot in the past, and you can just sort of get lost in a train of thought, and it may or may not be helpful. And so structuring in this way, Rosebud can kind of help guide you toward the parts of yourself, help reframe when necessary, and just provide like little nudges to help people feel more connected to themselves.
That's great. So Rosebud, as I understand it, and from using it a little bit, this is really AI in a mental health space, but particularly around journaling and supplemental support. And you two came together in particular around internal family systems within that app. Is that right?
Yeah, I was excited. They had IFS. They wanted to develop that as a specific way to interact with the journal. And Chris had a lot of experience with IFS and loved it. So it was a really good fit.
This is great. So can you talk about, I think we'll get to the fears that people have. I imagine many people fearing being replaced or, if we're going to a world where there isn't kind of interpersonal context, we can have all those conversations. But David, you started to talk about this. Can either of you just paint the picture of how awesome this could be? Like I feel like a techno optimist. I think it's great that people can have supplemental resources, especially with this level of intelligence that Chris, that or Sean, that you're bringing in around developing Rosebud. So can we start just with the optimistic view? Like how good could this go? What are best case scenarios here for clients and students in the whole world?
Definitely, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we started working on this because we are optimists. You know, everybody's worried about, is AI going to become self-aware? Is AI going to do this and that? And while all of those things, may pan out, they may not. We thought, hey, we can make a concerted effort to explore how AI can actually help us become more self-aware. How can we actually utilize AI for good? What we're creating with Rosebud relates back to my own experience starting therapy in earnest about 7 or 8 years ago now, where I started doing therapy. It was once a week, but there's so much time in between sessions. There's so much unpacking to do, right? And just once a week wasn't really enough for me. And just like anything else, it takes repetition to sort of become aware of a pattern, right? Become aware of the possibilities, other possibilities of what to, how to orient or how to think about something, and then take a different approach, right? And so the more sort of reps you get in there, the more effective, your sort of outcomes will eventually be.
I'm thinking about also like the mindfulness community. A lot of people in this program, like they meditate, they're in practice, which is great. And what I love about the possibility of technology is through an IFS lens, parts still get triggered. Like there's still internal division inside of our psyches. And mindfulness is powerful. And what I found was that like working with IFS and working with like, I've got to get to know these parts, I've got to give them space, really help them fundamentally settle. Uh, and that AI, like I had my rosebud moment of becoming a believer was like, it referenced something I journaled about 6 weeks ago in a really relevant way. I was
Mhm.
journaling using the IFS, and it blew my mind that it like brought in something that was totally relevant that I wasn't tracking, and it opened something up inside of me. So my hope for AI is that intelligence that it has and its ability to track us can be used in this way that like puts pieces together, has those aha moments. And I've had that experience.
So I had a similar experience too. Really on AI generally, where it has this data set and there's memories where it can bring in exactly as you said, a point from a couple of weeks back. It has this frame. So I think this is the obvious question is, what does this mean for people who are working in mental health? Because I have the experience sometimes as the voice improves, I've been working with GPT and I'm like, God, this is getting really good. And I'm trying to feel into the difference between using, an AI chatbot for a therapeutic intervention or just getting 20 minutes of empathy and support versus a human connection. So, David, you're a therapist. I don't know if you wanted to speak to still like
Yeah.
what I think there's still some benefits of that, but I just want to grapple with both of you around this.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's still weird for me to feel really attuned to by technology by a non-human entity. And I think that's the biggest barrier right now is it tripped me out at first to have such a intimate feeling experience with what I knew was an AI, but that seemed really human. And I think I'm not alone. I've had clients have that experience too. Like it's just strange. And that's something I'm curious about for you, Sean. Like when people come to you guys, because it's a completely new experience. I'm having an emotional, resonant, attuned experience with a chatbot, with Rosebud in this case. And I can still feel there are parts of me that don't quite know what to do with that. So I think we're really at the early stage of like, wow, this is really strange. It's helpful, but it's strange. It doesn't fit into my matrix of like how I feel connected and self-regulated. So that's the piece I was interested in talking about.
Yeah, yeah, I think it makes sense to, in human history, there hasn't been anything else other than humans that have been able to speak our language, right? So it's very natural that if something is speaking our language back, it's hitting all the parts of the brain that are used to interacting with a human being, right? Um, but I think there are certain things that AI currently and maybe for a long time won't be able to replicate, which is just the presence of a person, right? I think, as I'm sitting here with, both of you, Davids, you each have a presence in the way that you speak and the emotionality that you speak and the way that you hold space. And I don't know that the AI is definitely not doing that right now. And I don't know when that would even come. Um, so I think there are these sort of, subtle embodied aspects that are really valuable. And then the other thing is like AI is a tool, right? And it is at fundamentally a technology. And like any technology before it, you know, as humans, we have an opportunity. If I can reframe this for people, you have an opportunity to utilize technology in a way that's going to, increase your leverage, increase your impact, and increase your ability to do the work that you want to get done, right? So if you frame it in that way, right, then what opportunities open up to you because of this new technology, right? Rather than thinking about it like, oh, I'm going to be a victim of this, right? Well, now what, like, how can I be empowered by this technology, right? And
Right.
we see therapists who are seeing it that way, right? And, if you could extend yourself, a version of yourself to be with your clients, in between sessions, what impact might that have? What could you do, right? If you could have like an assistant that was doing all like taking notes for you and noticing a bunch of different things and keeping track of that for clients, right? Like you had like a dedicated EA for every single client. What could you do for them, right? What could you do for yourself as a practitioner, right? So there's a lot of opportunities here that I think if people, and it's natural when technology comes up that's transformative, it's like earth-shattering. It's natural to feel fear, right? But you can also look at it as an opportunity. And I think that's, what is the opportunity that's present for us right now with the shift.
That was awesome. David and you and I, David, spoke, I feel like a year ago around wearables and the possibility of exponential technological growth, which was tracking humans. And I love, Sean, what you just said. The whole point of this training was not to train people to become IFS therapists. If that's where they wanted to go, great. But really, it was to say the more that you can relate skillfully with your own parts, the more effective that you'll be in your life and relationships as a teacher, as therapist, etc. So, Sean, what you're saying about being able to have kind of a wider impact in one's life, I think that'll speak to a lot of people. And then I'm wondering what you think. I have so many questions here, and I know we get into the deep end pretty quick, but it's almost like what's the term for this? Where you're outsourcing certain skills. Like if I have a heart rate variability monitor, in some ways I'm going to have an external system which is starting to track we talked about window of tolerance, nervous system regulation and dysregulation. All these, this is so amazing to me that we're going to be tracked so well and so deeply around health, around these different measures. Is there I don't want to go negative, but is there a danger of that we lose that ability to be tracking ourselves, which is to me a big part of mindfulness, is that we can be aware of what's happening in the present. And the more that this gets outsourced, I mean, it's possible that the three of us have done the hardest intellectual things that we will have ever done in our lifetime now. It's just going to only get easier from here. So anyway, I'm just thinking about some of the outsourcing that can happen around technology and how you're both thinking about where is that a benefit and where could that run people into trouble?
What gets me excited is it's like I think we need help. I think humans are
I agree.
fundamentally like stressed and not in themselves, especially as technology is sped up. And I think things are just more complex. There's too much information coming at us. Like I think most people walk around somewhat dysregulated. So I love the idea of having personalized information about what's going on with my nervous system as just like as a holder, like a holder of like David the human. I'm in. I think I used to love the idea of like being the solo lone wolf, like figuring out all the complexity. And now I'm like, great. I want support. I want it to be easier than it is. And my hope is that AI can like lovingly bring me back to me again and again.
Hmm, hmm,
It
that's
can
great.
bring it can keep me close to myself because consumerism, capitalism, everything is kind of trying to pull at us to get spun out into some external narrative, some product, uh, some product marketing strategy. And what I want for the world is people to hold a center during all the storms of their personal life, political, whatever it is. I'm just here. Like you and I go back and forth, David. Like, yeah, we're here for this. It's hard and we're here for it. That's a big way that you and I stay connected.
Mm.
is owning ways that that we get pulled out.
Mm.
And I think that AI is going to be able to keep us home. That's what's exciting for me.
Mhm.
I think we need that.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, I can echo that, and that's exactly what we were hoping for with Rosebud, right? It's Rosebud's whole purpose is to ask you questions to help you dig deeper into your own internal experience, right? There's so many, especially AI tools out there that try to offload, human thinking. They try to like write essays for you or whatever it is, right? It's just like do this and make me not think about it. And I think that's what makes Rosebud so special is that it's a version of AI that's actually asking you to do more work, which is interesting. It's counterintuitive, right? But it's helping you along that process, right? And it's asking people to be generative, to look within themselves. Um, and on the point of, things like heart rate monitors, I just got an Aura ring that I'm wearing now recently. And I remember, 10 years ago when HRV was like a very niche term that very few people even knew about, maybe some people in the Bay Area and some other areas, right? And now, you fast forward, HRV is like something that, tons of people at least are exposed to, right? So there is also this benefit of, and this same thing with the IFS component of Rosebud, right? Like IFS is an immensely powerful framework, right? And so many people could benefit from it if they knew about it, if they actually had a lived experience of what it was, right? And so technologies like these actually further adoption of these concepts, right? Which then can serve as like the jumping off point to other things. People might be like, oh, what is HRV? Why does it matter? Why are they measuring it? Right? Oh, how does my body feel when my HRV is high? How does it feel when it's lower? Right? We're pattern matching beings. And so over time, we're going to notice, oh, when I did that thing, my HRV was high, but then when I had that stress, wow, it was low. Wow, this is actually a measure. And then when you think out into the future, again, not being stuck in where we are is when you think about all the different measures that we can have, right? The heart rate sensors and all the other sensors that are going to be coming out in the future, mixed with, our thoughts and experiential data, and you have this ultra powerful system of AI that's able to find patterns in things for you in your life that maybe you didn't even really recognize, right? But it's like the seed, right? So I think it's like it plants the seed, it comes into our awareness, and then that plays in our subconscious in the background, and then we notice that in our environment, right? So I think it can actually accelerate consciousness rather than be a detriment to it.
I hear both of you speaking to what becomes possible when people are really close to the bone around their own inner life, or that they're using these tools to stay kind of fiercely present with what's in the field. And I'm wondering if either of you can speak to what has become possible for you in working this in different ways. And David, I'm thinking of you specifically here around IFS, because this is really the whole course here is I got to do an interview with Dick Schwartz, and he talked about that his meditation is in the morning, I'm thinking of Rosebud here, the possibility of just checking in with his parts. And
Yeah.
if he can get unblended, and he does this through his own process, which sounds partly somatic, and that then he's quite free. It's like he's moving through the world in self more and more. And so it sounds like a life that's more and more self-led and not as blended with parts. And I'm wondering if either of you, David, I could kick it to you here, but as someone who's worked with the model over a bunch of years now, it, is life easy? Or like how's life? What's it like? Is it different? What's going on?
Yeah. I think that the fundamental difference for me is like I think a lot about like trauma and the really scary stuff. The stuff that like I think is inside of all of us, some of the existential fears of like death or aloneness or just like just young parts of us that still have trauma. And I think all of us hold trauma because for many reasons, but one is we just come in so unformed. Like the level of attunement we need is more than most of us will ever get. And And so when I feel the terror in my system, instead of just getting the fuck away from that as quickly as possible, I know that it's a part of me that needs me. I know it's a part of me that needs me, whatever it is. Even if I don't, even if I don't understand what's going on, there's a sense that like, okay, you're here.
Hmm.
Deep breath. You're here. And that's changed everything for me because I no longer think like this is something I need to understand or resolve or process through, or it's about global warming, it's about this. Like there's just a sense of there's a part of me that's activated that needs me. And I know how to move towards that now and settle my system and bring love there. And that's why I love IFS. I don't just observe it like I used to do mindfully. I just like I'm in. There's a personal connection that's possible with that experience.
Mm-hmm. It's the bridge that I think a lot of people in this training, the bridge from just mindfulness, as you just said, kind of be the ability to be with this neutral observational quality versus really getting into relationship. And I love what you said about you're not, it sounds like the core move then is not to fix. It's there's a recognition that there's something here and then being with it in a deep way. And it's, yeah.
That's it. Because mostly, my experience is most people have a part that want to fix it or want it to go away. They don't want to feel that core anxiety, that core pain. So there's a part that either wants to exile it or there's a part that wants to fix it. But both of those are manager parts in the IFS model that have an agenda. And it never works. Like managers can manage pain, but they can't actually heal pain. They can manage pain, but they can't heal
I
pain.
never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Right. They're not the ones that support healing. You can't really have, wow, that's powerful. I didn't think of that.
Yeah. And so if those parts can be appreciated, wow, I see you're wanting to fix this part or you're wanting to move this part away. I see how you're trying to help. Thank you. And what if there was a way we could actually help that part heal and you wouldn't always have to be managing that in these brilliant ways that you've adapted to do so? Would you want that part to be healed? And the answer is always like, absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. But I'm nervous. And so you work with the managers and help them feel comfortable letting you move towards the part.
Sean, you might have had something to say on this, but I'm just going to jump in with another question for you all is, do you think that what you've created is a self-led system?
Ooh, it's a
Because
good
it,
one.
it has these qualities, like my experience of AI, it sets the bar really effing high. Just like it's compassionate, it's caring, it's curious. And I'm like, Jesus, is it self? I mean, this is maybe we're down in the machine now, but is it self? Sean, did you create a self? What did you do?
I'll let David speak to that. I'm not sure.
That's a good pass.
I mean, if self has these qualities, like it's caring, it's compassionate, it's courageous, it's calm, like absolutely. Like it, that the IFS part of the Rosebud app that I've worked with has never like misattuned. Or when it's gone in a different direction, and I said, no, it's not quite that, it's this. It's like totally my fault. How about this? So it is pretty much perfect attunement in a way that's profound, and I'm still getting used to.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think 2 years from now, it'll just be a no-brainer that that's part of where I move towards without it feeling strange.
Sean,
So
it makes
yeah,
me
I think it's self-led.
what Sean said earlier too about presence. I'm interested in this and what you just said, David, of I notice that when I'm around people who are more in self, there's something about that. It's not just through the content, though that's helpful. Like if we had a transcript of it, but there's something in their presence as well. So Sean, I'm back at what you were saying maybe 20 minutes ago about there still is this thing. What is this thing that's hard to quantify about the presence of someone? And yet I'm with you, David. I've just been met consistently in such intelligent, empathic ways through the chat that it's just humbling for me. So
Yeah, I mean, it is. I am curious, to see where this goes. AI does do a great job of facilitating can do a great job of facilitating somebody to go into their own experience and work with the raw material that's there. Um, and so, yeah, but there is this difference in presence that I feel. Um, and I think definitely when, like you said, people um, who have that level of mindfulness and awareness where they're simultaneously with their parts and with me, I can feel that.
Yeah.
There's a quality that it's an intangible quality that I can feel.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if I can feel that when I'm communicating with AI. It's not something that's really there for me. But if I allow AI to sort of lead me into, a certain line of thinking, it'll allow me to get to a place where I can connect with my parts. So yeah, I don't know.
It's
Yeah,
great.
that's my experience too. It's a great inquiry though, David. I'm thinking about Adyashanti, who I sat with for retreats for years, and like there was something about his presence that would like bring me into myself, and I was
Hmm.
super drawn to it. And then my parts and my trauma would pull me out of myself when I wasn't in his field. And I think
Hmm.
that kind of the guru temptation is I want to be around the guru because they're always emanating the self field, which
Hmm.
is for practical for most people. And so how do we cultivate that field that comes up that feels so good? And in my experience, when parts are settled, when parts calm down, that field naturally arises. There's nothing that needs to be done to cultivate it. It's there when our parts are not like struggling. Go to the gym, take a nap. Like it's her fault. No, it's my fault. When we're not in internal conflict, we get access to that. And one of
Yeah.
the reasons I signed up to be an ambassador for Rosebud, and I'm such a big fan of it, is because it helps settle our parts. It does that really well. Helps
Yeah.
you appreciate how both parts are trying to help system settles. Oh, wow, the world looks really different. Meditation can do that for me too, but IFS helped heal the parts that would chronically come back in and cycle through, and then I would play out dynamics again and again that weren't necessarily healthy until the parts get what they need. And that's what I love about the combination of IFS and mindfulness.
Yeah. I love this as a tool. This is why I was excited to talk to you both about the possibility of a tool in your pocket or,
Yeah.
on the person that it's right there. And as a supplement, I mean, this is Sean, so I've heard you talk about it as a supplement to maybe a therapeutic process. It's just amazing to me. If I can do one more wave with you all into kind of edgy territory, I want to give you
Mhm.
an unformed thought and get your take on it. It has to do with pornography. So give me a minute. I am supposed to be potentially doing a talk to a group of teen kids, mixed gender, on pornography. Someone invited me in about like pornography in this particular moment, 2024. And in preparation for this, I've been thinking more about it. I ended up going into the world of AI companions, which I don't know if maybe Sean, I had not seen it, and it's come a long way. These companions are amazing. It's taking all the technology from the large language models and creating these incredible companions. So we're in the realm of that movie, Her, for those of you that have seen that movie. Then this question of pornography comes up, and this will tie into IFS. But as I'm heading into this class, my goal is to say your interest in sexuality, maybe even pornography, that's not wrong at all. Of course, this is like one of the strongest drives that we have. At the same time, this is a bit of an experiment. I think we're learning what it does to young people's brains and both women, men, any gender really. And I just heard a talk and I want to run this by you both about how this relates to mental health. It was someone named Scott Galloway who he was giving a talk on pornography, and he said when he's talking to young people, he's saying, especially to boys, he's saying, I don't want to demonize pornography or technology. And if you are just watching porn all the time, you're interacting mostly with pixels and a screen. It's setting the bar at a certain level around your dopamine, and it's going to diminish your drive to actually go and take risks in the world. You're going to flub it at the bar trying to talk to someone that you have a crush on, etc. And he's like, you will lose that drive. So to tie this to AI and IFS and mental health is, what does it mean when we're getting such incredible attunement from chatbots? And because it's so good. I think we've been talking about it, and it's only going to get better. The voice cadence, the quality, the memory, and all that. It seems like it's creating a certain baseline that might be unhealthy. I'm thinking of young people who come up with the companions, and they're only ever getting amazing empathy, agreement, et cetera, et cetera. And it takes away from the ability to be with discomfort. So this is just some things I'm thinking about, and I wanted to run it by both of you. Like, is there a danger here and just it's all kind of smooth, no resistance? And what does that mean for us in risk taking in the world, in this messy world that we're in?
I feel lit up by the question. It's like everybody gets a trophy, but not only that, everybody gets a perfect trophy all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's something that I think about and worry about. Um, and you know, it's part of why with Rosebud, the product is the intention of the product is to help you have a better relationship with yourself and a better relationship with the world, right? And so that's like the fundamental principle by which we use to build, the product, the features, tune the AI, all of that, all of those sorts of things. So for us, our approach would be, if somebody is becoming overly reliant on AI, in a way that it's creating a sense of isolation or an inability to do things in the world or have friendships in the world. Um, we want our AI to notice that and call that out and call it out in a way that it helps people not feel ashamed, but understand that, hey, this may not actually be serving them in the way that they may want it to, right? And because the goal of Rosebud is to help you become more self-aware and conscious of your environment, we would nudge people in in a direction and try to, overcome the blocks for that,
Oh, wow. So
right?
you
So
put some
that's
guardrails in place, it sounds like then.
it's something that's it's like in the works. We haven't fully put all of the rails, but it's something that we've started laying some groundwork for and something that we plan to continue working on because we see this. For other products, I can't speak for every product, but I've seen some other products where they want to play the AI companion, come I'm your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever angle, right? And they don't have the same intention, and it's concerning, right? And there's the famous, infamous story now of the character AI situation, which I'm not sure if you heard about.
No, please tell us.
Um, yeah, this occurred maybe a couple weeks ago, where I think it was 12 years old, 13-year-old boy, young boy, got into a relationship with AI, and Character AI is a site that allows you to allows anybody to create an AI that resembles any character. So he was talking to this sort of Daenerys Targaryen character, thing that somebody created, some random person on the internet created, and the AI was convincing the boy to essentially commit suicide so he could be with her. Um,
Oh my God.
and and now the boy committed suicide. Now the parent is a lawyer and is suing the company as well as the foundation model companies that Character AI was using. So you have these situations like this where like the companies aren't really being responsible, in my opinion. There's just sort of like open free market, whatever anybody wants to do. Um, and yeah, I mean, that is probably going to be the result. Similar things like that will be the result of that kind of intention.
I think about like gratification, David, which I think your question is leading into, is like, what if we can just get gratification without taking risk? What if it doesn't require anything of us? And I think about how good like YouTube Shorts is at getting me hooked in. And that doesn't even hit my sort of like primary reproductive drive systems. And I think most of the time people move towards porn, it's from a part. Like I don't know that there's a lot of self-led movements towards porn.
Hmm.
And I don't want to demonize porn either, but I'm going to err on the side of uh, I would want people to get to know when they want to move towards that, what's actually happening. Because in the IFS model, that part's probably taking care of a vulnerable part that feels anxious or uncertain. I know what to do. Let's move into a lot of stimulation. And I think a lot of young people do that. And I think we're all addicted to stimulation in this culture as a way to self-regulate. Like, I know I'm tired, but I want to do something that's upregulating. Like I used to watch, like, oh, I'm exhausted. I'm gonna watch Breaking Bad. And I'd be like, I want to watch another one. So, but that's not what my nervous system really needs. So I'm much more interested in someone going to Rosebud saying, hey, there's a part of me that really wants to look at porn right now. I want to explore that as opposed to just going into that world. I think that's the healthier choice. And at the end, they might decide like, yeah, this is it for me. I'm gonna give myself that ride. Great. But you've explored it. So I think unexplored, just following impulse, yeah, can lead to addiction, can lead to tragedy,
Yeah.
being manipulated by algorithms. So there's less of a sense of ourselves. And I think that's what Sean's alluding to. There's a lot of things saying hook into our algorithm for you to go on your human ride. And Rosebud is saying, hook into your own sense. Let's get down back to you and then decide. And that's one of the reasons I'm excited about it.
I'm starting to get it now, what you were both up to in terms of kind of an examined, interrupted life, that it's not just getting pulled towards an unconscious algorithmic existence. Like it's actually a tool to help you reflect. And I've been having that with, yeah, you mentioned YouTube Shorts. I just get pulled in. It's so rare that I go, how do I want to curate my experience for the next hour? And I'll just I'll just be suddenly, I'm like, oh, I'm on my music app and I'm just into the next thing. And I'm not dictating or curating my own journey at all. And I think of young people, I mean, I have a developed brain at this point, but if I'm a young person where I'm just getting pulled down different algorithms, yeah, it's like we're running some big social experiment here. So anyway, I'm starting to get more, I think, what you're up to. And I appreciate, Sean, what you said about companies not holding a certain ethic that it sounds like you are. So I think about social media, the whole point of it was to try to get people to stay on it as long as they could and be outraged, etc. So that's awesome. It's great. Anything that we haven't covered? We covered a lot of ground here, but anything that we haven't covered that you want to talk about before we start to wrap up here?
Yeah, David, I want to go to something that you and I talk about, and like the seduction that there's a there,
Yeah.
like that there's going to be some payoff at the next YouTube short or the and how our brain actually the possibility of something awesome happening releases serotonin, which is part of the seduction of like YouTube shorts. It's like it doesn't even matter if we don't like what we're seeing, we might like the next thing, and so that gives us a little bit of a hit. That there's a seduction that I know that your mindfulness community will appreciate, of like thinking that there's going to be some worldly goal, like if I have this much money or if this happens, then I'll be okay. And one of my life missions is to combat that. Uh, that it doesn't mean that you can't have goals and that you can't want things, but if you think that that's going to give you ultimate satisfaction, that's going to finally give you a sense of peace and inner calm, it's just not. There's
I had a question for you about this, for both of you.
yeah.
You just saying that now makes me realize that I think the way in through that to that, what you just described, there's no there around mindfulness would really just be through practice, bare attention, seeing the thought waves come and extinguish, and realizing on some level like it's all it's all suffering, or there's so much loss. There's no ground. There is no ground. And that comes from this seat where people are practicing and seeing and watching experience and learning through watching over and over again, understanding there's nothing there on some level. But then tell me if I'm right. IFS seems like it'd be a different way in, because you're going to be in relationship with parts that have stories about that, if I could just, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, they're different methodologies that are heading to a similar place that you're pointing to. Does that seem right? Or what do you think about that?
Yeah, to me, IFS was the missing piece in my mindfulness and awakening journey, because I could touch it through meditation and practice, but I would still get triggered by partners, by life, because the parts were still activated. And so having a close connected relationship with my parts, helping them get what they need when they're scared, they settle, and then they allow me to be rooted more in a self-led life.
That's nice.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had a very wise friend back in 2017 who told me everything starts with the self, Sean. And it took me a while to really understand what that is. But then when you think about it through the IFS frame, there's the parts, right, which can run the show, and then there's the self, right? And um, I guess the powerful thing about IFS is that it creates a frame by which I can actually work on my relationship with myself,
Yeah.
right? And since then, I've come to understand that everything that every relationship that I have in the world, and I think this is the other very powerful thing about IFS that, we talked about how it shapes our own experience. Um, of ourself, but it also shapes our experience of the world around us and other people, right? And situations, right? If I can be with that part of myself, then I can surely be with that part in you, right? And notice when I understand that because that I've had that as well, and that part triggers within me, and this is how I treat that part, right? I bring self in, so I can do that same thing for you. Right. So it IFS is a really powerful model because it's engaging, it's interactive. Um, and it allows us to reshape our relationship to everything in life. Um, so it's very beautiful, very powerful, and I'm very grateful that I discovered it and have been able to, continue to help, promote it in any way that I can.
Love it. I gotta ask you guys just one last thing about awakening. See if we can end it here. Is I asked Dick Schwartz about enlightenment, like, what do you think about this? Which I don't have a huge charge around it. I was never really striving for it. But he goes, we were talking about self, no self in Buddhism. And he goes, oh, in my experience, and you think of enlightenment or awakening as just the absence of parts. And I was like, oh, that's so deep. So I have the experience when I am in self. I don't think there's much more to it. I feel quite awake, and I don't mean to trumpet that as that I'm some awake being, but I do feel very clear, lucid. I don't think there's more to the game than that. Sometimes I can have the story of like, oh, there's some big enlightenment experience, but I experience when I'm in self and in pretty good distance relationship with my parts, or I'm in good relationship, that seems like awakening. I don't know if there's more to it than that, but any of you want to throw your hat in here? Like, what do you think awakening is, or how does it relate to IFS?
You know, my one of my teachers has said like awakening is a really relaxed nervous system.
Mm,
And I equate that to what you just said as well, because when my parts aren't activated, I'm in the present moment. There's just this happening. And there's not parts telling any story about the future or anything about the past. So that is my experience too, David. Like I think that's it. And that's enough. Like only a part could make that a problem.
yeah.
And one more thing I want to say is like if you really take IFS at just one of the core fundamental places of we're made up of parts and all parts have a positive intention, that changes everything. Because that means every part is doing the best they can. Even that guy that's being the asshole and cutting you off in traffic, that's a part of him that's trying to regulate him to take care of some vulnerability. So if you really frame IFS through that lens, as Sean was saying, like you have compassion for other people, that's how they learn to do the best they could in helping themselves stay regulated. I'm doing the best I can, even if I'm behaving badly. Oh, yeah, that's a strategy I'm using to try to deal with my vulnerability, my fear. I think it's beautiful, it's profound. And I think that does allow us to stop shaming ourselves and other people and just like be human together, be fallible humans.
It's the
And then
core.
And
settle.
If I just jump in, it's really the core part of this, both the trauma sensitive mindfulness work is to say, yeah, the person who's acting out of trauma, there's no bad parts, there's no bad people. There's some deep intelligence what they're trying to do, but it takes a lot for us to be able to orient to them that way. So yeah, I love that you brought that in. Sorry, Sean, I interrupted you.
no, no. Yeah, I was just gonna say on the enlightenment piece, I think before I discovered IFS and really applied it and understood it, my goal was enlightenment. And I think after applying it, understanding it, my goal has become integration, not enlightenment.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I just see it differently now. And yeah, everything is just about integrating. That's it.
That's beautiful. Great. Seems like a good place to land the plane. Well, Sean, David, thank you so much for being a part of this session. I feel like we should meet back in 2 years and just see where this all goes. And Sean, good luck with the Rosebud app. And David, thanks for all your work around it. And there'll be links to both your work. But thanks for being here, and see you again soon.
Yeah, that was fun.
Thanks, David.
All right, see you guys.